What's up, guys? I'm back. It's been a long time, fellas. It's been a very, very long time. But I'm back. It's October. We're going to be doing crazy October things. I plan on doing a review for every day in October. I might have to catch up. I might have to do multiple reviews a day. Might have to make sure that Scooby stuff is put up, not necessarily maybe on time, but during the days when I'm also doing other stuff. Sorry, sunlight outside, not really good lighting. I'm experimenting with angles here, in case you can't tell. I'm actually at my wife's keyboard right now. Anyhow, though, today I'm drinking a strange mixture of Maxwell House 100% Colombian and Starbucks Pike Place Roast Decaf that is technically expired, but we're going to see if it's any good. Yes, and I gotta tell you, this is the best way you can possibly drink Maxwell House. I think I've finally perfected it. Maxwell House is not good, I've mentioned it before. The Pike Place Roast Decaf is fairly good, but this is a combination between decaf and caffeinated, so I'm just gonna kind of call it half calf. So, actually really, really good stuff. If you actually mix that stuff together and then hit it with a whole bunch of sugar and a whole bunch of milk. Not so bad. But that's not what we're here to talk about today. Of course, I always do that. I'm going to also try and get back into recommending some songs or some albums for you guys, but I'm not going to do that this video. This video, I'm simply going to just go all out with the October. So I'm going to be watching some family films that are kind of spooky or have an October feel. I'm also going to be doing reviews of horror movies or horror movie parodies or something with horror that I've never seen and ones that I have seen. And I'm going to be giving you a good look at the stuff that I like from a different perspective than you might normally have. So for instance, the next video I'm going to be doing, not this one, but the next video is going to be a review of Frankenstein and Bride of Frankenstein, which are kind of tied in my book for being kind of all-encompassing one of my favorite horror movies. And I'm going to talk about it from the perspective of Frankenstein sort of as the fallen man. So I'm going to talk to you about that in probably the next video. But the first video here is going to be for a movie I hadn't seen until last night, and we're going to just go ahead and jump right into it. First movie I haven't seen in October, and this is a horror parody, sort of a parody of the slasher craze of the early 80s that came out in 1983, and it was entitled Wacko. Now, this movie's gotten a little bit of press recently because of a Blu-ray release that I believe came out last year. Got a really good Halloween feel to it, so I figured I would go ahead and throw that on, check it out, see if it was any good, and it does, in fact, have a good Halloween feel. The killer, in fact, wears a pumpkin as a head with a big, crazy carrot nose, or some type of nose that he's got. Also wears kind of a Dracula cape. But anyway, let's go ahead and get into this movie. Like I said, it's got some good Halloween feel to it. It's definitely a comedy more than it is a slasher movie. When it actually turns into a slasher movie, it really goes downhill fairly quickly. The last 15 minutes are not really that good at all. However, I will say that throughout most of the rest of the movie, when they do good gags, the good gags are really good. There's a lot of sort of self-referential horror knowledge in here. You know, so they go to Alfred Hitchcock High School, and the killer always hums the Alfred Hitchcock theme, that dun 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 dun. He's always doing that. He kills people with lawnmowers, which is a sort of out there kind of signature weapon for a slasher villain kind of thing. Really kind of harping on the ridiculousness. I told you about his costume, so that's of course ridiculous and harps on that sort of, you know, everybody's got to have an original look. Well, this is definitely an original look, but it's a really stupid original look. So you've got that going on with it. There's So the idea is that there's a Halloween prom. Now, I've never heard about this. I've never experienced a Halloween prom, but maybe it's just something that goes on with this particular town and this particular school. Now, I don't know if I can actually say that is realistic at all, but let's just leave it there. It doesn't have to be realistic, it's a horror movie. But it's got all this really good self-referential humor. I mean, there's a lot of references to, like, werewolves and the island of Dr. Moreau, and people turning into animals, and one of the main characters is named Norman Bates, and his mother is basically a skeleton, but nobody really acknowledges it. The main girl's, the final girl's brother is actually named Damien, and he, goes into hell sometimes, and then comes back out, and he's always stabbing himself with not a syringe, but a scalpel. And the dad in this movie is just clearly a mad doctor. His actual first name is Doctor. He's not a real doctor, but he's supposed to be an OBGYN. So really weird stuff going on. He's spying on his daughters, which they play this for laughs. It's clearly really disturbing because he's spying on his daughters and trying to see them naked a lot, and it's always played for laughs. And sometimes it makes sense, sometimes it makes no sense at all. But the movie's real strength is in one performance, and that is the performance of, I can't remember his name, but he's, I think he was in the original Walking Tall. He was also in a couple James Bond movies as sort of this co-agent of Bond. I'm going to lean over and get some more coffee real quick. Don something. I can't remember his last name for the life of me. But anyway, he's there, and he plays this crazy character. And what he does, alright, so he's like a detective, right? And he's obsessed with the case of a lawnmower killer. And because he's so obsessed, he hasn't slept for 13 years. He just kind of rests his eyes. He opens his eyes in the morning, and then all of a sudden he's already got this cigarette hanging out of his mouth. He's already got a suit on. He's sleeping in a suit. He's obsessed with coffee. He's an alcoholic. He's just this real hard-boiled detective type character. And he's so funny. Because of his crazy character quirks, he's so funny. He's searching for this killer, and he's accusing everyone left, right, and center, all of which could be the killer, but also clearly aren't. And he's, he's doing all these crazy things and getting into crazy situations. It's a rather interesting performance, and it really does hold down the movie. George Kennedy also plays the father that I told you was really creepy. George Kennedy, of course, from several different things. Maybe most well known is his performance as Frank Drebin's boss in the Naked Gun movies. But, ultimately, the movie kind of fails because it's an okay parody, but it's so crazy and so out there, and it's so all over the place that I can't recommend it from sort of a technical perspective, but purely from an entertainment perspective. If you kind of like horror movies, at least, if you just kind of like horror movies, if you're interested in a really low-budget movie that you've probably never seen before, and it's on Amazon Prime, not a really good transfer, but there is a new Blu-ray of it from Vinegar Syndrome, I hear is fairly good. I'll recommend it to you just as an entertaining little experiment that you can watch during the time of October. It's set on Halloween. It's got some good Halloween atmosphere. It's definitely funny in some places. In other places, it kind of fails. But honestly, I gotta say, if you're even a little bit of a horror movie fan, you'll at least find this somewhat entertaining. So I say definitely check out Wacko if you fit that criteria. Like I said, it's free on Amazon Prime. Go check it out. It's a crazy movie, and I think a fairly good kickoff to my October reviews marathon. So, rock on. If you're not subscribed, talk to you guys later. Gonna do one more last sip of this coffee before I go into the next video. Bye-bye, guys.